I never anticipated that a few offhand words from my stepdaughter could rupture my life so violently. "Why don't you just disappear?" she spat one night, her voice cold with frustration. Right beside her stood my wife, her mother, who added, as if echoing a script they had rehearsed together, "We'd be better off without you." In an instant, 3 years of painstaking effort to become the stepfather Stella deserved seemed to collapse into a heap of shattered trust. I couldn't speak. My voice stuck somewhere in my throat. I simply gathered my things, walked out the door, and let the night swallow me. But the next morning, while I was still curled up in my best friend's guest bedroom, my phone practically exploded with missed calls, 13 altogether. The frantic calls were from my wife, from Stella herself, from other relatives. Something had changed in a single night, and I had a horrific feeling that, in my absence, something had gone terribly wrong. Yet I wasn't sure if I was ready to go back, because as soon as I'd walked out of our home, it felt like I had finally seen an unsettling truth. Every photograph in the house, every memory of me within that family, had become optional. They could slice me out of their pictures with the same surgical precision they used on my heart, and that realization both chilled and freed me. Part of me feared returning to the place that had so callously told me to vanish. Another part of me raged, wanting answers, wanting to stand up for myself. That conflict seared in my chest as I scrolled through the unanswered calls on my phone, noticing Stella's name among them. Why would she call after spitting those hateful words? This story, my story, is about that break in my life, the night I quietly packed my bags and the chaotic weeks that followed. It's a tale of betrayal, heartbreak, hidden agendas, a long-lost father reappearing, and a teenager caught between illusions and reality. It's about me slowly learning that sometimes you have to vanish to be truly seen. But it's also about what it means to fight for someone who isn't sure she wants you in her life at all. In the 3 years I'd been part of Stella's life, I naively believed I was earning her trust. Sure, we had rough moments. Teenagers are not easy, especially one with a complicated history involving a birth father who had come and gone, leaving behind heartbreak and disappointment. But I'd done my best to step in carefully and never overstep. I did dad jokes, made her favorite pancakes on Saturday mornings, drove her to dance class, and tried to stay out of her way when she needed space. Sometimes she opened up, like when she was crying over a breakup, or when she was excited about a program she'd been accepted to at school. Other times, she'd slam her door in my face and remind me with a harsh glare that I was not her real father. Yet, the night everything broke was different. The tension had been ratcheting up for a week, small irritations piling onto bigger resentments. She'd been texting at the dinner table, ignoring our family rule. I gently reminded her, and she reacted like I'd physically attacked her, throwing her phone onto the table, voice trembling with barely restrained anger. "Why are you always policing everything I do? You're not my dad, so why not mind your own business?" I glanced at Delilah, my wife, Stella's mother, hoping for backup, or at least some gentle mediation. She had always told me, "Don't take Stella's teenage moods too seriously." But that night, Delilah said nothing. In fact, as I tried to carefully reason with Stella, Delilah quietly added, "You're stifling her, Thomas. Maybe give her some room." That was the moment Stella's words truly took flight. "Why don't you just disappear?" she hissed. The venom in her eyes stunned me. I looked at Delilah again, still expecting her to diffuse this rage, to show me some measure of loyalty. But Delilah simply set her fork down and said, "Maybe we'd be better off if you did." It felt like I'd been struck in the chest with a hammer. For 3 seconds I couldn't breathe. Then I stood, forcing a calm into my bones that felt unnatural. "Okay," I said, which must have surprised them both. Stella's eyes flashed with uncertainty. Delilah pursed her lips as if she wanted to call back those words but didn't know how. I said nothing else, just climbed the stairs, rummaged for my old duffel bag, stuffed in enough clothes for a few nights, and came back down. Stella had vanished by then. Delilah hovered in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed protectively, as though she couldn't decide if she wanted to apologize or berate me. "So you're just leaving?" she said, voice taut. "You asked me to," I answered quietly, forcing myself not to tremble. "I'll be at Ryan's." And with that, I walked out. The door closing behind me felt like a final, echoing statement. It told me that maybe, all along, I'd been the odd piece in this jigsaw puzzle of a family. I'm posting here because everything fell apart last night. My stepdaughter told me to disappear. My wife agreed. I left. Now I'm at my best friend's place and I can't sleep. There were 13 missed calls on my phone this morning. I haven't answered any of them. Part of me wants to see if they're okay. Part of me wants to never go back. I wrote that post on a small online forum in the middle of the night. Ryan, my best friend, was asleep down the hall. He'd let me crash in his guest room without asking questions. A true friend who knew when to hold his tongue. I tried to knock myself out with an over-the-counter sleeping pill, but all it did was blur my thoughts. I woke up late the next morning. Sunlight streamed through the unfamiliar curtains. Reaching for my phone, I hesitated before turning it on. Finally, I pressed the power button, and it buzzed incessantly with notifications. 13 missed calls. 8 from Delilah, 3 from Stella, 2 from my sister Quinn. 27 text messages, 4 voicemails. I opened none of them. My heart was pounding. I couldn't face them. Not yet. Instead, I tried to distract myself by scrolling social media, only to notice Stella had posted a new photo the previous night. It was the living room, my living room, except something was missing. Every family photo that included me was cropped or removed. The frames on the mantel looked eerily empty, as if I had never existed. My coffee mug from that morning still stood on the table in the background, but I was nowhere to be found in those pictures. My face had literally been cut out. I felt tears burning my eyes. For a moment, I wondered if I was overreacting, but it was there, in the digital evidence, for the entire online world to see, a family minus me. I spent most of that day lurking on forums, reading supportive comments and messages. People told me, stay strong, teenagers can be awful, your wife is supposed to have your back. Some said, they don't deserve you, move on. Others advised me to talk it out, to find professional help. But around late afternoon, Ryan dropped a bombshell. We were both in his small kitchen sharing a lukewarm pizza when he casually mentioned, did you know Miles is back in town? Miles, the man who fathered Stella, and then disappeared. Delilah told me about him in those early months, quietly, like sharing a scar. He left when Stella was 2, no warning, just a voicemail. I need space. I'll call when I'm ready. He never called. He'd pop back in now and then, always with a charming smile and a new excuse. Once he showed up for Stella's birthday with a puzzle he picked up last minute, still half wrapped. He spent most of the party smoking on the balcony with a girl barely out of college, while Stella waited for him at the table, trying not to cry. When Delilah and I got married, I wanted to give him a chance, but every time he returned, he left damage behind. He once borrowed $1,200 from Delilah, said it was for rent. A week later, he posted beach photos from Tulum. No thank you, no repayment. When I called him out, he smiled and said, she offered. I wanted to hit him, but Stella was watching. Now she's 17, smart, driven, top of her class. She wanted med school. Now Miles is back again, whispering poison, telling her college is a trap, that she's meant for more. He wants her to move to Oregon and start a business with him. He calls her inheritance from her grandmother seed money. She's already transferred some to a shared account. He's using her card, says it's for their future. Delilah can't sleep. She blames herself. And me, I feel fury and fear because I've raised this girl. I've packed her lunches, helped her through heartbreaks, taught her how to tie a tie for prom. I've been her dad, and now the man who abandoned her gets to be the hero? I won't disappear, even if she's pushing me away, even if they both ask me to step back, because when this falls apart, and it will, someone needs to be here. Someone who stayed. Ryan slid his phone across the counter. It backed me to reality. A Facebook post, Miles Anders tagged at a local bar 2 weeks ago. So that's what this is about, I said slowly, my mind churning. He's back and Stella's reconnected with him? Ryan shrugged. Could be. Look, I'm not saying it's definitely related, but the timing is suspicious. I grabbed my own phone and reluctantly opened Delilah's text messages. They started out angry. Real mature, Thomas. Leaving us instead of talking. You can't just run away every time Stella has a meltdown. But then they shifted to concern. Please just let me know you're safe. Thomas, something has come up. It's about Stella. Please call me. Why would she suddenly beg me to come back if she'd told me to leave the night before? The answer, I suspected, was spelled Miles. That suspicion hardened when my sister Quinn arrived unannounced that evening, a no-nonsense expression on her face. She didn't bother with greetings. I ran into Stella at the mall, she said bluntly. She was with Miles. I felt a pang in my chest. He's back then? Looks like it, Quinn replied. Thomas, she seemed, well, she looked happy, but in a forced, almost desperate way. I got the sense she's clinging to Miles and he's encouraging it. We both know how that ended last time. The last time Miles tried to play Father of the Year, he dazzled Stella with big talk, made dozens of promises, and vanished just as quickly, leaving Stella devastated and withdrawn. Could history be repeating itself? I'm still at Ryan's, ignoring calls from Delilah. I caught a glimpse of Stella's new Instagram post. Real family night with Dad. She's smiling next to Miles at a restaurant. My wife isn't in the photo. This is so bizarre. Is Stella rewriting the entire narrative, or has Miles convinced her of something? I typed that update with shaking hands. My phone buzzed at that exact moment, the screen flashing an unknown number. Something told me to answer. Hello, is this Thomas? Yes, I replied cautiously. This is Miss Anderson. I'm Stella's guidance counselor at Riverside High. I need to speak with you about some concerning changes regarding her academic plans. My chest clenched. Miss Anderson explained that Stella had just filed to withdraw from her advanced courses. She also asked the school to send transcripts to 3 different out-of-state schools. She mentioned a potential move, the counselor said gently. I've known Stella for a few years, and this shift is alarming. I was hoping to speak with you and Delilah together. However, Stella insisted you were unavailable. I hung up feeling numb. A move? Was Miles planning to relocate again, taking Stella with him? That night, I forced myself to open Delilah's messages. The most recent one read, Miles wants Stella to move in with him. She's actually considering it. Please, Thomas, I know you're angry with me, but we need you. My first reaction was fury. They'd told me to vanish, and now they needed me. The irony was thick enough to choke on. But beneath the anger was a gnawing worry for Stella's well-being. I tried to calm myself by remembering why I'd stuck around all those years in the first place. Because Stella deserved stability, not the heartbreak Miles always left behind. I typed 6 responses and deleted them. Eventually I wrote, I'll come by tomorrow. We need to talk in person. When I arrived at the house the next day, I noticed Delilah's car in the driveway, but no sign of Stella. My stomach churned. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. Delilah was pacing in the living room, phone in hand. She spotted me and let out a trembling breath. She's with him again. They went for coffee. She called me 5 minutes ago saying she's made up her mind. She wants to live with Miles in California. California? I repeated, stunned. Delilah nodded, tears brimming. He's apparently launching a new tech startup there. Says if Stella invests her college fund, she'll get a huge return, enough to pay for any school she wants. My anger flared. He's hitting her up for money? Delilah's hands shook. Yes, and Stella believes him. She's so desperate for a real father figure, for that fantasy. I tried telling her it's a scam, but she said I was just jealous. Then she told me I should be grateful he's finally stepping up. Just then, the front door opened. Stella stood there, her expression caught between bravado and guilt. She wore a new jacket, undoubtedly courtesy of Miles. Mom? She said, eyes darting to me. What's he doing here? I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. He's concerned. We're both concerned. Stella's facade cracked momentarily. I don't want to fight. I just came to grab some notes. Miles wants me to check out some business plan details. That's when I pulled out my laptop. Show me the plan. Let me see these guaranteed returns. Stella shifted uncomfortably, but after a moment of hesitation, she sat on the couch and opened the PDF on the screen. I skimmed it. A few buzzwords, big promises, no real foundation. I recognized the pattern from the last time Miles tried a grand scheme. My frustration grew. Stella, do you remember what happened when he convinced your mom to invest in that vintage car dealership? How we never saw a dime of that money, how he disappeared 3 weeks later. She stood abruptly. People can change. He's my dad. He wants a chance to prove himself. Delilah's voice trembled. You're risking everything you've worked for, your college, your future. Stella turned her gaze to me, tears brimming in her eyes. You left, Thomas. That night you just packed up and disappeared. You proved you don't care. At least Dad came back for me. I felt like a spear had been driven through my chest. I didn't leave you, Stella, I said quietly. I left because you and your mom told me to. Because it broke me to stay where I wasn't wanted, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. Her lip trembled. Then she stiffened, blinked back tears, and said, Miles said you'd twist everything. He warned me. She brushed past me and hurried up the stairs. Delilah covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking, and I just stood there, reeling from the stinging realization that Miles was orchestrating a wedge between us, and it was working. I tried talking to Stella, but she's completely under Miles's control now. It's like he's rewired her brain. He keeps feeding her fantasies, telling her she's too smart for school, that college is a waste of time, that she should drop out of her AP classes and come with him to start a business in another state. He's promising her the world. Lavish travel, success, freedom, but it's all smoke and mirrors. My daughter has savings. Money she got from her grandmother, money she worked for, and I've seen the way he looks at it. Like it's his next paycheck. He convinced her to put her name on a shared bank account just for convenience, and now I've heard he's using her debit card to pay off his own debts. He calls it an investment in their future. But he's almost 40, jobless, and living off teenagers. He's isolating her from everyone who actually cares, telling her I'm controlling, that her mom is unstable, that all we do is hold her back. And the worst part? She believes him. My wife is in pieces. She can barely sleep. Watching our daughter slip away bit by bit is like drowning in slow motion. And me, part of me is furious. Furious that Stella and Miles both told me to disappear, like I was some obstacle they needed out of the way. But I can't just walk away. Not again. Stella is too important, even if she hates me right now, even if she thinks I'm the villain. She needs someone who won't give up on her. Later that evening, back at Ryan's, I scoured the internet for information about Miles's so-called startup. My findings were grim: a string of short-lived businesses in multiple states, multiple lawsuits from former investors claiming fraud, delinquent child support logs. The more I read, the more nauseated I felt. This man was a professional con artist, and he'd chosen the worst possible victim, his own daughter, hungry for his love. Mid-scroll, my phone buzzed with a text from Stella. "Are you happy? You told Mom about Dad's past, right? Now she's freaking out on me. You just can't let me have this, can you?" I typed a dozen responses. None of them felt right. Finally, I settled on, "Your mom and I care about you. Your father's record speaks for itself. I just want you to be safe." Her reply was immediate. "You don't want me safe. You just want me in your control." Anger flared, but mostly heartbreak. No matter what I said, Miles had twisted her perspective. The next morning, my phone buzzed just as I was finishing my second cup of bitter coffee at Ryan's kitchen table. Unknown number again. I hesitated, then answered. "I'm Mr. Thomas. This is Miss Anderson from Riverside High. I need to talk to you urgently about Stella." My stomach dropped. She sounded concerned but composed. "It's about her behavior this week. One of our teachers caught her outside the gym yesterday. She was with some older boys, not students from our school. She was smoking." "Smoking?" I echoed, stunned. She seemed distant, defensive, said they were just friends of her dad's, that she was learning about business. Miss Anderson paused. "Thomas, I've known Stella since her freshman year. She was never that kind of kid. She's unraveling, and I believe this man, Miles, is manipulating her far more than we realized." I could feel the blood draining from my face. Smoking was just the surface. Who were those boys? What kind of business were they talking about? My instincts screamed danger. When I told Delilah, she went pale. "We need to get her out of this, before it's too late." That evening felt like a funeral in reverse, dressing not for grief, but for a battle. We barely spoke. Stella picked at her hair in the mirror, trying to tame flyaways that didn't matter. Her blazer, crisp and expensive, hung on her like armor. Miles had bought it for her, along with the earrings. She kept touching them like they might keep her grounded, but her hands shook. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but didn't look me in the eye. "Just tired." Delilah stood in the doorway, lips pressed together. She hadn't spoken to Stella all day, not since the counselor had called. There was tension between them, and under it, something more: fear. The restaurant was pure performance. White linen tablecloths, crystal glasses, candlelight flickering across menus with French names. Miles had chosen the place for effect, and it worked. He stood at the head of a long, gleaming mahogany table, one arm slung over the back of a chair like a CEO in a commercial. He looked slick, too slick. Tailored suit, hair freshly cut, watch flashing like a warning. When he saw us walk in, he didn't flinch. His smile widened. "Ah, the happy family," he said, loud enough for the table to hear. "Come to support the vision?" No one else laughed, only him. Stella hesitated, then walked toward him. She sat beside him stiffly, like a guest in the wrong house. Delilah sat across, her mouth a tight line. I remained standing, arms folded, eyes locked on Miles. He launched into his pitch like he was auditioning for Shark Tank. "This is the future," he declared. "Stella and I have a vision, a youth-led tech innovative venture, and we're inviting you to be early believers, early winners." He passed out glossy pamphlets, diagrams, and words like seed capital, projected revenue, turnkey disruption. People nodded, some excited, some confused. "Stella is the heart of this company," he continued. "She's investing everything, because she believes in her father." He smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. She flinched. That was it. I stepped forward, my voice cutting across the table. "Tell them the truth, Miles." The room fell silent. Forks paused midair. I continued, louder, clearer. "Tell them how many times you've pulled this scam. The fake startups, the lawsuits, the parents who lost their savings." Miles chuckled. "Wow. Okay, jealousy looks real good on you, Thomas." "You prey on people," I said. "Teenagers, single moms, lonely investors. You're not a founder. You're a con artist with a spreadsheet." He stood now, his face twitching. Back off! Or what? I took a step forward. He shoved me. Hard. I stumbled back into a chair but caught myself. That moment snapped something. I lunged at him. The table flew sideways. Wine glasses crashed to the floor. Investors screamed and scrambled out of the way. I grabbed him by the collar and drove him back into the wall. "You used her!" I shouted. "You don't get to hurt her again!" He grunted, then threw a wild punch that grazed my jaw. I tasted blood. He swung again. I ducked, and my fist connected with his stomach. He doubled over, gasping. "Thomas, stop!" Stella screamed. But I couldn't. Not yet. He came at me again, fists flying. We slammed into a server's tray, sending plates crashing. One investor grabbed his wife and ducked. Someone was filming it all. I could hear gasps, a woman shouting for security. Then Delilah stepped between us, arms outstretched. "Enough!" she yelled. "You're scaring her!" Stella was shaking, eyes wide, tears streaming. "Stop it! Both of you!" Security burst in, but before they could reach us, two plainclothes men stepped forward, flashing badges. "Miles Anders," one said calmly. "You're under arrest for fraud, coercion of a minor, and soliciting illegal investments." Miles froze. "You set me up," he hissed, spitting blood. "You all set me up." "No," Stella said, her voice cracking. "You set yourself up, and I'm done falling for it." The officers cuffed him, read him his rights, and marched him out. The room stood still. The man who'd commanded the space with fake charm was now being dragged out, defeated and exposed. But the scene wasn't over. As soon as he was gone, the silence snapped. "What the hell were you thinking?" Stella turned on Delilah, voice sharp with betrayal. "You knew he wasn't perfect, but you let this happen. You let it all happen." Delilah blinked. "I was trying to protect you. By standing there and doing nothing, by letting him convince me to drop school, to move in with strangers, you let me believe he was safe." Delilah stepped closer. "I didn't know how far it went. I was scared." "I needed you to not be scared," Stella cried. "I needed you to see him for what he was. Thomas did. He fought. He stood up. And you—" Her voice broke. "You just watched." Delilah's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was giving you space to choose." Stella shook her head. "You gave him space to lie." She stormed out of the restaurant. I hesitated, then went after her. "Stella, wait." She turned around in the cold night, wiping her face. "I'm so tired, Thomas. I feel like I've been fighting ghosts." I nodded. "You're not alone anymore. He's gone. For real this time." She exhaled, shaky. "I hope so. Because if he isn't, I don't think I could survive another lie." Later that night, back at the house, we were all silent. Stella sat curled up on the couch, clutching an old stuffed animal she hadn't touched in years. Her eyeliner was smudged. Her hands still trembled. "I was so angry at you," she said to me quietly. "When you left, I thought, good. One less person judging me." I sat across from her, still bruised from the fight, but more wounded in my heart than anywhere else. "I wasn't judging you, Stella. I was fighting for you, even when you didn't want me to." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "And I told you to disappear. I made you feel like nothing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She stood and walked toward the shelf where our family photos used to be. Slowly, deliberately, she began putting them back, one by one. Not cropped, not edited. All of us, together. Delilah watched in silence, hand pressed to her mouth. Stella turned to me, eyes full of pain and truth. "You showed up every time. That's what a real father does." We hugged. I cried. She cried harder. Delilah joined us. Later that week, I drove Stella to school. She held my coffee for me while I adjusted the radio. Something so simple, so normal, it broke my heart again in a better way. At a school assembly, Stella gave a speech about fraud prevention. She looked out at the crowd and said, "Blood doesn't make someone a parent. Love does. Showing up does. Thomas is my real dad, and he always has been." And I just sat there in the front row, tears shining in my eyes.